Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Hike. And today, my guest is someone that you could refer to as a jack of all trades. Rahim, tell us who you are and what you do.
Thank you for having me. So, I'm a former forensic scientist who turned into filmmaker and photographer, did that for a couple of years. And now I'm full time a Web3 investor. I am also building ArtsDAO. So I'm the president and co founder of a Web3 community based out of Dubai.
Sounds like a big leap.
It sure is. Yeah, I fundamentally believe that when you're in the technical field, a lot of your principles about following rules and like how the baseline foundation is very similar. To just give you an idea, when I got into animation, I had a friend of mine who was like struggling with this animation where he had to bounce a particular object in his software. I've never done animation, but I know the physics that goes behind it. And I was like, what if I gave you the scientific formula? Can you put that into your software? And he's like, let me give it a shot. And I ended up giving it to him. He ended up putting it and he solved the problem in like 5 minutes, which he was struggling for a good 8 hours. And that's when my wheels started turning. And I was like, at the end of the day, filmmaking, photography, animation, it's all capturing light, physics, chemistry. And like now you take that to Web3, I got into the space as an artist. So I essentially did the same thing, capturing light, using tools, designing pixels, to essentially making art. And then I ended up investing in companies and building a company in Web3. So I guess in some way it ended up going full circle, even though it doesn't sound like a full circle.
it surely doesn't. But on
Yeah.
the other hand, if you look at it, you basically took tools inside the system that you used while you were a scientist that helped you solve problems in a different way to compared to a person that didn't have the background you had, right?
100%. At the end of the day, science is all about like trial and error. You try different systems, you come up with different ways, and if you fail, that's fine. So I feel like people who are in the scientific industry, you kind of build like a baseline foundation of failing and trying all over again. So it wires your brain in a way to experiment more, explore more. And that's why I guess a lot of technical people end up branching out in different careers over time.
Talking about experimenting, I do understand that you've done that for quite a long time throughout your career. Because coming from science to Web3 investing doesn't really sound like a straight line, does it?
It never is. I think like I am one of those people that I believe if you are very laser focused in life and you're like just looking at the end of the tunnel, which is completely fine if it works for you, you end up missing out on all the things that's going to come on the way on your left and right. And I think I'm like someone who believes in a balance of okay, having a tunnel vision, having a north star, but like that north star is not written in stone to the point I miss out or skip on all the amazing things that come in the middle of me reaching there.
So you're saying that you're flexible. You have a North Star, you're moving towards that direction, but you're keeping yourself flexible in order not to miss any potential good opportunities on the way, right?
100%. That's very beautifully put.
And it doesn't affect how effective you are in what you do.
It does. I mean, like whenever you're taking different turns in your careers, you are essentially starting from zero. So it has its own challenges. And I'm not going to lie, it wasn't easy, especially when I was moving from my science career to my creative career, I guess. It was kind of hard to rationalize that, okay, I'm all of a sudden getting into a career that I picked up skills from like YouTube and other friends, whereas I'm leaving a career that I actually went to college for. So it definitely has its challenges, but I think it's one of those things. At the end of the day, you have to be true to yourself. Like I believe in learning a lot. I like exploring different things. So I feel like, I might like, when I go deep down into something and if it kind of pivots slightly and I see a whole different industry or a passion project, I would want to kind of explore it, even if I have to start from scratch.
Yeah, I can actually relate with that eternal student vibe because I myself started from creating websites, went to writing texts, then tried graphic design, then entered photo, video, event management, and so it rolled out in a really unpredicted way. But I do agree 100% on the fact that you got to be a eternal learner. And this is where I want to go a little deeper or precise on what is it that you actually do and what problem do you actually solve right now?
I believe any form of tech revolution has like a very geeky culture behind it, because it has its challenges, it has its like nuances, it has its innovations that come in its early years, that only come from understanding the geeky nature of it, of how it works, what are the principles, how does that system work. And it's a very technical aspect, but because of that geekiness, there's also a culture that's harbored around it, and this is unique to every single thing. But because your life is so isolated, you're not able to relate with like a lot of people who work in the web3 industry. They struggle to tell their friends and families about what they do, how does our industry work. I feel like there's a lack of sense of belonging in our industry, and that's what like ArtsDAO and the company I've built a harbors, that we are like, okay, it doesn't matter whether you're an investor, you're a developer, you're living in code and you're living in numbers. At the end of the day, we want to bring you a sense of belonging. We want you to be surrounded by people that have similar interests, for you to grow and ask questions and learn from each other. But at the end of the day, also feel like, you know what, like this is my people, these are my community members, that if I'm scared, if I'm nervous, I can speak to them. If I'm excited, I can speak to them and they will relate. And yeah, I think that's what we're trying to harbor with art style, is kind of blending the technical world with the cultural world, which is something just like not very common in a lot of industries.
So from what I understand, professionals in Web3 find it hard to integrate and be heard in a way, maybe because the world they're living in, we are living in actually, is something that many do not understand. Many will not understand for quite some time. And it's important to find people who you can share it with. But here's the thing, it's one thing to try to find people to relate with, and it's another thing to create a community for people to be able to relate with others. So, why do you do that? Like, what's in it for you?
Mm. So this goes into like the ethos of how like Web3 fundamentally works. The whole concept of like decentralization and crypto is very much about bringing power back to the people, which is why our industry, for example, works very different to a fintech industry. Like our users are not customers, they're community members. And there comes like a different, like there's a more of a direct communication line between the builder of that product or that technical ecosystem and the consumer of it. This is something you don't see. Like, other than customer support, you will not be able to speak to someone from Stripe. You will not be able to speak to someone from like PayPal, but that's not in the same in our industry. What this does is it empowers us to fight for the bigger picture. The fight for decentralization is it's a bigger vision. We want to bring value back to the people. On the financial world, we believe that government and geopolitical decisions shouldn't decide if Hike is able to afford stuff for his family or not, or Rahim is able to afford stuff for his family. Yeah, so we fundamentally believe that, like, regardless of like how much you work or whatever, your currency should be completely out of politics, it should be completely out of geopolitical decisions. And that's the fight of crypto, and it's a big fight. We are trying to fight like a system that has existed for like hundreds of years. And how is that going to work, is if we all come together, if we all build together, we understand problems together, we solve together. And Artstar wants to harbor this a lot, so we can fight this new chapter in a way more win-win-win situation kind of a way.
So, if I understand correctly, freedom is very dear to you. It's very important. It's like a crucial aspect of life. And you're willing to do everything to save it, protect it, and enlarge it as well in some logical boundaries, obviously. But you want to have that freedom yourself, and that's why you decided to pour your time and energy into building a community where people can access the same things that you thrive for and have the same opportunities that you wish for yourself.
100%, that's very beautifully put. And I feel like the more centralized the world gets, the more power we take away from people, the less choice they have. And regardless of if you were to make the same choice, it should always come from the people rather than like an outside source and stuff. So principally, I think like you have like put it very beautifully.
In that case, I'm curious to know a most epic fail you had on the way of preaching this knowledge and trying to explain and build the community.
Perfect. The Web3 industry, when we are talking about a specific example of everything at ArtsDAO, it comprises of different profiles of people. So you have investors. Investors are of two kinds. There are investors who are investing into Web3 companies. So this is like on like bigger levels. And then you have like investors who are like buying old coins or crypto and trading them, or like buying meme coins. So you have a sector of these people. Then you have artists. Artists' interest in blockchain and crypto is very different to someone who is an investor. Then you have art collectors. Their interest is very different. Then you have builders. Now, builders could be all the way on the marketing front, all the way on the consumer front. Then you have developers. Developers are more on the coding side, on the back end side. So you have like, it's almost like when you say a Web3 community, it's almost saying that we are an internet community, which just sounds like a bizarre statement to make because the internet is so massive. And I feel like if I were to go back, I would want to make sure that we become way more granular with our approach. That is it a particular sector of Web3 that we want to focus on a lot? How can we harbor that? And I think that's what I would prefer. I feel like everyone in the industry classifies everyone in crypto as a Web3, and I feel like that's a fundamental problem, and that's the same mess up and fuck up, for a lack of a better word, that I fell in, where I was like, okay, yeah, community, but what does that mean? Taking a pause and asking yourself, what does that mean, what value it brings, and what can we do for that, will end up revealing a lot of things. So I would say this was definitely one of the mess ups.
So you suggest, although you're an explorer by nature and you're experimenting with different things, what you realized is maybe it would be better to narrow down between certain profiles of Web3 users to target as community members.
Exactly, 100%.
Okay, that's interesting. ArtsDAO is almost 4 years old, and throughout its course, it definitely did different things in different fields with different people, engaging different sort of profiles that you mentioned. And we know that there are some changes coming up, and we all are looking forward to those changes. But what I want to know is if you can spill the tea a little. What are you trying to achieve right now? What is the next step or the next milestone you're working towards?
Fantastic. So I'm gonna spill some tea for you, as you said. We actually started as like a very NFT focused ecosystem. And that's because in 21, 22, NFTs were like skyrocketing and stuff. What we eventually realized that we wanted to broaden that horizon, because just because you're into NFT doesn't mean that you're not into other things. We initially had like the concept of a DAO. That's why it's called ArtsDAO, which is a treasury where cumulatively everyone in the community owns a bunch of NFTs together. The way this was hedged is we got into like the most valuable NFTs. So if like the entire industry, as an NFT industry, would do well, the treasury would do well. Unfortunately, the industry just didn't do well. A lot of the top NFTs are down, like literally, like the top NFTs are down like 80 to 90%. So that kind of got us to being like, okay, we have two components to ArtsDAO. One is like the treasury, and one is the community. Communities don't die regardless of how markets go up or down. If anything, communities get stronger when things are going down, because then the right people build the right connections, and the people who are not there for like deep, meaningful stuff, they kind of leave away. So we were like, okay, so what are we observing? We are observing a lot of people are moving to Dubai in the crypto scene. When people move to Dubai, they don't have their family, they don't have their friends, they don't have the things that they grew up with, nothing is familiar. They kind of struggle integrating into a city, and this doesn't even have to be Dubai, this could be everywhere. So we were like, okay, again, so these group of people in Web3 are looking for a sense of belonging. current people who are already here love that sense of belonging. And that's when we came up with the concept of, and this is the first time I am publicly talking about it, is the Clubhouse. So ArtsDAO Clubhouse is supposedly coming end of summer, somewhere around that. We are not releasing dates yet, but the whole idea is for us to have a physical space together where we create together, we learn together, we discuss things. If you're worried about like your asset positioning, you speak to people and get a better understanding of it. We want for us to be learning from each other. We also believe that just because you're in crypto doesn't mean that's the only thing that you do. Like I believe that people are not single faceted, that maybe you like cooking, that maybe you like music, maybe you like meditation. And what we want to do with this physical space is that if we fundamentally believe that Dubai is going to be the Web3 hub, that we want ArtsDAO to be your Web3 home in that city. So I want everyone to feel that sense of belonging, and that belonging comes from doing maybe crypto during the day, but maybe one morning people are doing meditation. Maybe the other morning people are getting together and playing, I don't know, like a board game together. So we want to like really build this place out where people find their home and find their sense of belonging, find those friends and families. And we want to be able to build out this entire ecosystem for them, for us to harbor. So essentially, like the way it's going to work is you are going to have like an yearly fees that you pay to get access to this physical space. And we want to harbor more connection, more people building, more value propositions that we as a team can bring. But we also believe that this is a community driven thing. So all the stuff that you are able to bring to the villa to other community members, that it's going to help all of us grow and build out like this vision of finding your home in a lonely industry like Web3, but also finding a home in the city of Dubai and finding that family.
I love the vision. I mean, the line, especially the line, if Dubai is gonna be the hub of Web3, we want to be the home of it. Brilliant. I wish you all the best. I believe the community that's already gathered around ArtsDAO and who's watching from the sidelines, they're all eager to know what's gonna happen. And I believe that many are willing to assist you in whatever you're trying to achieve by bringing crypto Twitter to the real life. And I would want you to tell me and the audience watching this video, who is it exactly you would like to connect with in order to bring the vision to life?
What the group of people that I really want to connect with and learn from and bring value to is all of these other people with way more knowledge, way more experience than I have in like crypto, and especially for people who are coming to Dubai. So Dubai as a city has kind of changed its culture, or the crypto culture that it used to attract, because even 2 years ago a lot of the crypto people that were moving to Dubai were consumers and traders. Now you see like a lot of builders and investors move. So it's almost like a different class of people that is moving to Dubai. This is something that wasn't there a couple of years ago. And these are the people that I like really want to focus, really want to capture, because it harbors way more building products, way more coming up with ideas and innovating together. And hopefully a lot of cool products in the future that launch that are used by thousands or millions of people can probably one day come from the connections and the foundation that ArtsDAO has set. And that I would love to hear podcasts like 10 years down the line where someone goes like, you know what, we met through ArtsDAO or we met at this event. And I think that would kind of fulfill the vision that we all have, which is helping grow the industry together.
So whoever is planning to go to Dubai, or whoever is already in Dubai, or whoever is planning to move to Dubai, just reach out to Rahim. By the way, which channel should they use to reach out to you?
Well, Twitter is like the best place to reach out to me. I'm usually like very active over there. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram. You can find me on LinkedIn. But like, if you really want to get connected with me on a very organic level and just like experience what like the true Web3 culture and the Web3 persona is, find me on Twitter.
Amazing. What I loved about this conversation is the passion you were speaking with about the community and about helping others on their journey in Web3. Thank you for that. And I wish you all the best. I can't wait for the announcement about the second part of ArtsDAO, like the full announcement and what we're gonna see, how it's gonna be, and when are we going to touch it? But before we close this, I just want one more thing from you.
Tell me.
Drop me a single piece of insight from all of the years of your experience from science up to this point, like a single piece. What would it be?
My single piece of advice for anyone out there, whatever you're doing, is be a lot more open and talk about a lot more publicly about what you do, because you have no idea what doors it will open and stuff. I think, like, even if you're like a bit introverted, even if you don't like talking about what you're doing, you could be doing the most interesting thing in the world. You could think your job is like the most boring thing in the world, but the world works a lot on connection, and that cliche saying of like your network is your net worth is a very true thing. So just talk about it, be public about it, whether it's your socials, whether it's your friends and families, and you will have no idea the opportunities that will come and where you might find yourself in a couple of years.
I love it. So talk about what you do, guys. Drop comments with feedbacks on how you liked the episode. What would you like changed? What thoughts you got throughout the conversation? Thank you, Rahim, for joining me today. And we're saying goodbye to everyone. See you in the next episode.
Thank you so much.